Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode one of the Rogue Eye Entertainment podcast. My name is Alex Schlerf, and we have a packed show today. Obviously, episode one. Most of you watching this are probably people who were followers or fans of the Rogue Eye Sports blog, and now that blog and brand, my brand is now called Rogue Eye Media, and that has allowed for an expansion, so to speak, of the brand and of the content that we produce. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in the intro to this episode, and then after that, we're going to get into a packed show of movie and TV show news. So I'm going to go into my review of the new Bad Boys movie, Bad Boys 4, Ride or Die. I just saw it this past Friday, so we're going to get into my review and thoughts and ratings on that. Then after that, we're going to get into a huge Marvel news segment. So Alex Perez, who is a reliable scooper, releases news or kind of spoilers, so to speak, about the future of Marvel projects and stuff. He released two articles this past week answering questions from fans about upcoming MCU projects. So I'll leave the links to this all in the description. Don't worry about anything like that. Give him the full credit. He's a great scooper. I follow him. Would totally recommend you follow him as well. And we're gonna get into kind of everything he talked about in that article and give my thoughts and opinions on it. After that, we finish up that. We're going to go into an article that was released last week by Deadline, where they talked about some updates for Avengers 5 and mostly the directorial choice they may be zeroing in on as we get closer to the filming dates or when the release date is supposed to be next year or maybe the year after that. I'm not actually totally sure. I don't think anyone really knows, to be honest. But anyway, after that, if we have time, I'll also get into my thoughts about the Venom 3 trailer that released this past week, I guess a week ago today. And I'll get into that if we have time. Not sure we will, and I don't have too many thoughts on it, but if we have time, I'll get into it. But anyway, that's what we're going through today. Just to start off and kind of intro what this show is going to be, like I said, and like you can see from the preview of this episode, it is going to be a movie and TV show kind of podcast where we discuss, recent news, give reviews, and just generally my thoughts and opinions on the movie world. That can include, my some of my lists that I make of all the movies that I rate or all that. And like I said, like we're doing today, we're reviewing a movie I watched. We could be reviewing a TV show that I watched. We could be talking about Marvel news, general movie news, just general like news about the cinema world. If there's award shows and stuff like that, which it's not award season right now, but when it is, and just generally talking about the entertainment sector, which is something I have a huge passion for. Obviously, the brand before this was Rogue Eye Sports. It is now Rogue Eye Media. I've explained that a lot on social media, specifically Twitter, Instagram, stuff like that you guys have access to, and on the website as well. So if you want to learn more about this kind of change from Rogue Eye Sports to Rogue Eye Media and now having this Rogue Eye Entertainment podcast, you can look in the social media. But basically what I said on there is it's just a way for me to expand what content I'm producing instead of focusing solely on sports and stuff like that, which still sports content is still going to be coming. It's still going to be a lot of sports content, maybe even more than this. But with articles and podcasts, and the Rogue Eye Sports podcast is not going away. It's still all good. It's still coming. We'll talk about that, more on social media as the weeks come on. But those episodes will be coming every Friday, and these episodes will be coming every Monday. So again, more to talk about that. Sports is not going away, but again, this entertainment sector is a very big passion for me, especially Marvel stuff. So I just wanted to have a platform where I know people like me are out there who want to listen to stuff about their Marvel content or stuff like that, or movie content. And I think that it's just a passion of mine. And I think it's going to be something that I want to talk a lot more about, specifically in a podcast, maybe in articles also. So this is going to be, again, a weekly podcast every Friday, ideally. And if that ever changes, I'll let you guys know about that. Or not every Friday, sorry, every Monday. The Rogue Eye Sports podcast is every Friday, but we'll talk about that once the next episode of that comes out. And yeah, I mean, I think that's it. You're going to learn a lot more and it's going to change a lot. And we're going to see what you guys like, what you guys don't like. And that's how we're going to kind of decide what we do on this podcast. I'm welcome to all guests. And again, I'm welcome to all feedback. And again, thanks for all your continued support. And if there's any confusion or anything, look on the social media or just contact me, let you know what's going on with the brand. I always try to keep you guys updated of what's going on. But again, we have a packed show coming in today. I'll talk about a little bit more in the intro or maybe throughout this episode, but we do have a packed show, so I'm going to get right into it. First off, talking about the Bad Boys 4 movie that I saw on this past Friday. Just before I even review the movie, I want to say that this was a really enjoyable theater experience for me. Obviously, it was opening night, so you would expect that it'd be a packed theater, but the theater that I go to isn't very popular, and I've gone to opening nights at least this summer, where maybe not movies they'll make as much money, but some movies like Furiosa, which I saw on opening night, which I thought was amazing, and I think a lot of people think was amazing, but obviously isn't doing as well at the box office. And that theater experience wasn't really as good. And obviously they're different movies, but with Bad Boys, it was a fantastic theater experience. It was packed. Everyone was laughing from the minute one. Everyone was into it. All the action, everyone's like, "Ooh," whatever an action scene. There was a cool action scene. And again, I'll talk more about that when I get into the review. But overall, it was a very enjoyable theater experience. And I hope that's continued throughout the opening weekend and into next week as well. And it was something that definitely I'm gonna get into my review, but definitely would be something I recommend. It was a great theater experience for me, and I'm sure it would probably be for you guys as well. So for this movie, I think the context is important that I haven't seen any of the previous three installments in this series. I know that I don't think it's very necessary that you see the previous three, at least for me. I hadn't seen the previous three, and I watched this one, and I was really able to fully enjoy it, understand pretty much everything. There were parts to it where they kind of referenced old movies and there's characters from old movies in it. Obviously, the main two characters, but there's other characters that are in it, and clearly there's plot points from previous movies that are brought back. But they kind of do a good job of explaining it by not making it all exposition. There were a lot of flashback scenes. I could tell it was footage from the old movies, and I think it was explained well. So I don't think you need to see the previous three movies to see this movie. It would probably help. But anyway, I should get into I should not I'm talking too much. I should get into my actual review of it. I really like this movie. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, which 8 out of 10, whatever you prefer. I'm just going off the Letterboxd rating because I use Letterboxd on movies. But 4 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was probably the funniest movie I've seen so far this year. Definitely one of the best, but a couple more that are above it. But definitely one of the funniest movies I've seen this year. Just to start off, the cast is fantastic. I'm just going to roll off some of the names here. Obviously, the main two, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, who were the stars of the previous three movies, too. Fantastic, hilarious, great at action. Love them all. We have Vanessa Hudgens. The man who played the fantastic Mr. Fantastic, you know him from Ian. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Gruffudd. I don't know, but you know who I'm talking about. He played Mr. Fantastic in the other Fantastic Four movies. He's great in this movie. There's plenty of, I mean, Tiffany Haddish has a cameo in this. DJ Khaled has a cameo in this. It was just, in general, a fantastic cast overall. It's just a great movie overall. There was a great mix of action and comedy in it, and I'm sure that's exactly how the previous three were. So I'm sure I would like the previous three as well. And like I said, now that I've seen this, I think I'm going to go back and watch the previous trilogy to kind of just because I feel like I'm going to like this franchise. And I feel like anyone who even just sees this movie like I did without seeing the previous three, you're going to feel the same way. It's hilarious. It has fantastic action. The directing, which I'll get into a lot more, is just so special and unique. And I love how it was directed. And again, it is an action movie first, but it's also such a comedy. I mean, there's scenes where I was just completely laughing. Like I said, the entire theater was laughing. PAX Theater, great experience. And I think it's kind of hard for a movie like this to get any higher than the 4 star. And that's kind of the trend I've been seeing on some of the reviews on Letterboxd or Rotten Tomatoes or stuff like that. I think it's hovered kind of around the 3 to 4 star range, or the 6 to 8 out of 10 range, I think, just from what I've seen. And I think that's fair because there's some slow parts. It kind of takes a while to get into it. And just in general, this action comedy kind of movie, it's hard for it to give you any really emotional depth or anything or amazing writing that's going to get you to a any higher than a 4 star, at least for my ratings. I kind of felt this was a 4 star all the way, or kind of was like a 3 star early on, but it definitely heated up towards the end. So again, the positives are there's a lot of them. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, fantastic. Martin Lawrence is hilarious. I don't think I've seen any movies of his before. I'm sure he's very popular, but I'm just a bit uncultured on that. He is hilarious. Almost every line he had in this movie, I was completely laughing. And again, the whole theater was laughing. Will Smith is a movie star. We've known this. He's a bit of a less comedy figure than Lawrence is, but he's so good with the action that he's given. And there's a bit of a side plot here, and I'm not getting into really too much spoilers, but this is like a mini spoiler. If this movie isn't really a spoiler like movie, like it's not a Marvel movie where it's going to be a huge spoiler that'll ruin the whole movie or like the anticipation, but he kind of deals with a bit of anxiety and like panic attacks in this movie, which could have been or could have felt really forced and kind of off-putting, but I think they portrayed it really well. As someone who personally deals with a little bit of anxiety and stuff like that, I thought it was portrayed really well. I thought it was a pretty accurate depiction, and it serves as a pretty cool side plot to a movie that's overall like all over the place, comedy, fast paced, where they give this, kind of I guess, emotional level or kind of depth to his character, and it really works pretty well. And I think it was a very important storyline for this movie that ended up coming through the whole way. It was kind of weird that there wasn't really a conclusion to it. Obviously, there was kind of a funny gag in the last, 20-minute action sequence where, there's that whole, I'm not going to spoil it again, but you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And there's kind of like a funny conclusion to it, but I kind of thought the movie would end with him dealing with that anxiety or dealing with his family or, I don't know, therapy or something like that. But didn't really get concluded, which is one of my problems, but kind of a small problem, but kind of weird. But again, his character is great in this. Will Smith is great in this, as expected. And those two would just anchor this entire movie completely from start to finish. And well, I guess the start, I keep talking about the slow start. I'll kind of explain that more. I think that it was kind of weird that there was this whole storyline, and I don't think he's spoiling it, but if it is, again, skip past this. But there's this whole storyline of how at the beginning of the movie, Martin Lawrence's character has like a heart attack and he's been having heart issues. I don't know if this continued from the previous movies, but he's been having heart issues and he has a heart attack and he goes to the hospital. And there's this whole like dream sequence where he is like underwater and like seeing his body and he talks to the captain from the previous trilogy and like because he's dead. I don't know if that movie came out like 3 4 years ago. That's spoiler. I'm sorry, but it's like it was just kind of like strange and it kept coming up during the movie and there was funny parts of it. He's saying like, oh, I can't die, and he walks through like traffic and like it's funny, but it doesn't really fit. It just felt kind of out of place in this movie, and I was worried if that kind of silly like outlandish thing continued as the movie went on, then it would have really dragged it down. But luckily they kind of went away from that, went more into the action and stuff. But that was definitely probably my biggest con of it. It just like was a very strange choice, I felt, to have that be a storyline, like kind of a cosmic afterlife storyline in a Bad Boys action movie. I don't know why they made that choice. Maybe it worked for some people, but it didn't work for me personally. But that's my really only main complaint. Another positive past the cast, which is probably the best part of the movie, is the directing of this movie. The directing duo of Abdil El Arabi and Bilal Falal. If I'm butchering those names, I'm sorry. They directed the previous movie. They directed Miss Marvel. Those are the ones that I know them from. At least, the most popular ones, I would say. And they're also in the mix to direct Spider-Man 4, which is really interesting. Because their style is very unique and very interesting. And from the minute one of this movie, you see what their directorial style is and how one of a kind I think it is. I haven't really seen their style in anything else. There's similar things to it, but not really anything that we've seen too much in movies, especially action movies. The way they work with the cameras, I'm sure people have seen some of the behind the scenes of these movies and how they've used POV, especially in the ending, kind of the last 20 minutes, the last action sequence, and just the way they use zoom in the camera, the way they're shooting the comedy, it plays off Lawrence and Smith's like duo, their comedy and their chemistry so well. Just the way they shoot some of these scenes, every scene was directed so well. And if these guys do, and this will probably be a talking point for a later podcast, if they do end up directing Spider-Man 4, it seems like they're the front runners, just from what I've seen, especially because Sony's fast tracking that movie. But if they are directing Spider-Man 4, getting swinging scenes with their direction is giving me chills to think about. I know we're not talking about that right now, but giving me chills to think about that. They are great in this movie. They're without their direction and without the way they directed this, I'm not sure it would have been good as it was. And they really elevated the material with the way they directed it. But again, overall, this movie was just a really funny, comedic action movie that everyone should go see, with your friends, with your family. And I hope the theater experience is as good as well. You'll laugh, you'll, gasp at the action sequences. There's a lot of funny storylines in there. Again, great acting, great cast. I also didn't mention Rhea Seehorn, who you'll probably know from Better Call Saul. I know her from that. I haven't really seen her in anything else. She has a small role in this movie, but when she's in it, especially the ending, she has a lot of emotional weight, and the way she portrays it is really good. And I was really impressed. Again, Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, his character's funny too. Eric Dane, who I think he was the main villain, isn't in it too much, but is good whenever he is. So again, a really fun watch, 4 out of 5. I would totally recommend it for anyone. Great summer movie to watch on a weekend or during the week whenever you get a chance. Go see it because this is a movie that I don't think is going to flop anyway because it's an established franchise and a lot of people like it. But we're not letting this movie flop because this movie is great and I recommend it to anyone who wants to see it. It is hilarious. And again, let me just give real quick where it is on my rankings this year. I don't have this pulled up, but let me just pull this up real quick. just my rankings real quick on Letterboxd. And I'll leave my Letterboxd link in the description if people want to go on there. You'll see my movie reviews as they go in. I'll usually talk about them on this podcast, but again, just gonna throw it in the description if you want to see it. I have all my movie lists on here. So I've seen 15 new 2024 releases so far this year, and that will go up. Don't worry. I know that seems kind of low, but it will go up. Don't worry about that. But out of the 15 movies I've seen, it is currently sixth right now. The five movies that are ahead of it are the Fall in this order are this is fifth. First, The Fall Guy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Dune Part 2, Challengers, and then Furiosa. That's my list for right now. Bad Boys is just above Godzilla times Kong, which I also had as a 4-star. Again, if you want to see the full list, it's not the right time to discuss it at length, but maybe I'll do like a mid-year review at some point this month, but just of my list and all of that. And then for the movies I've seen just in general this year, not just new releases, I've seen 62 and it is 25th, which sounds like bad, but it's just because I've seen a lot of good movies this year. So again, those lists in full will be on my Letterboxd if you want to check them out. But I'm running out of time for the segments. I'm trying to talk quick, but again, great movie. Go see it. It is one of my favorite movies I've seen this year so far. Definitely the funniest one I've seen so far this year. And kudos to everyone involved, especially the directors, especially the main cast. And yeah, go see this movie with everyone on a big screen. It's totally worth it. So that is to wrap our review segment. I'm going to take a quick break real quick, and then we're going to transition into the Marvel news segment with all the stuff that I discussed earlier. All right, so the next segment we're going to be getting into is, like I said, the Marvel news segment, starting off with the two articles that Alex Perez released for his website, The Cosmic Circus. Again, all credit to him. I will leave all the links in the description so you can read the full Q&A. I'm probably not going to go over every single thing he answered just because we don't have time, and there's some stuff that one word answers or stuff he doesn't have a word on, stuff like that. But I would recommend giving him a follow on Twitter, reading his stuff. I'm in his Discord as well, so I didn't get a chance to get to either of these Q&As, but I would definitely recommend giving his Q&As a read and hopping the Discord, following him and everything. He's great. Definitely check him out, and all the credit goes to him for all this news. And always with this news and scoopers and stuff, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but he is one of the most reliable ones we have out there, so I would trust mostly what he's saying. And I guess there's a slight spoiler warning here for some stuff, but it's very light and overall stuff. And I'm sure you wouldn't be listening to this if you aren't a big Marvel fan and don't really mind hearing this kind of stuff. But this is more of a discussion than like a spoiler thing. I'm not talking about like what the ending of the Fantastic Four movie is going to be next year. Like it's not like that. It's more overall news tidbits that people were asking him about. So just going to skip around a little bit here. I'm reading right off the article here. Have it open my computer. One of the first things he talked about was the fact that because of the whole, not controversy, but because of what's been going on with Avengers 5 and the delays, and same with Secret Wars as well, he noted that Secret Wars may be splitting into two parts as a movie. Obviously, this is going to be the last film in the multiverse saga, phase 6, whatever you want to call it. And he said there's a very good chance that because this is quoting him exactly. He said, there's too many stories happening plot wise that really can't be condensed into the average 2-hour runtime. And he's even heard that the movie could have more than one central antagonist, which is kind of exactly what the Secret Wars comic is from 2015, which I believe they're basing it off. And that's what he was saying about Secret Wars. I think that makes complete sense. I kind of thought it was silly from the beginning that they wouldn't make Secret Wars two parts. Just to give some context, I read Secret Wars about 2015 Secret Wars about a year ago, and is my favorite comic I've ever read. It is fantastic, but it is massive. It is a huge comic storyline. There's loads of characters. There's a whole build up into it, and we haven't really been getting that build up too much. There's some like, oh, here's incursions, here's in Multiverse Madness, here's incursions. And we've gotten like the Marvels kind of teased it with like now we're in an X-Men universe and she's trapped in there. And like the ending of Shang-Chi, which was like 3 years ago now. The misdirection is kind of a story for another day. But I never thought it made sense when they announced it that Secret Wars wouldn't be two parts because they wouldn't be doing the comic. It's they would be doing it a disservice if it wasn't split into two parts because they'd be rushing it too much. And they'd have to skip out on a lot of the storylines. Obviously, it is a 12-issue comic book, so they're gonna have to skip and change some things with the state of how the MCU is and compare it to how it was in the comics at that point. But I think if it's split into two parts, they can get most of it in there, and they can still have, the main characters of the story, Doom, the Beyonder, Molecule Man, Reed Richards, all these people that are like the main characters of it, which are characters that we either haven't seen yet or really haven't been developed at all. A lot of you guys probably don't even know who Molecule Man is. He's a huge part of the Secret Wars comic. I'm not even sure he's going to be in this whole Secret Wars thing because I don't see them introducing him just in this movie, but that's something that I have to theorize once it gets closer and stuff. But I kind of thought Kang would replace Molecule Man, but anyway, that's if you know the comic, you know what I'm talking about. But I think it's a completely fair and logical decision to split it into two parts, and I think that's definitely the way it's headed, especially with the kind of up in the airness of Avengers 5. He did talk a little bit about Avengers 5 as well. He kind of said that he's not totally sure, but to quote him, he said it will be like a multiversal film with a particularly grounded story involving multiversal elements. And again, we're going to talk more about Avengers 5 when we talk about that deadline article. But I think that I don't even know if Marvel knows what they're doing with Avengers 5 right now, just because of Jonathan Majors being fired and they're not sure what they're doing with Kang and they have to set up Doom for Secret Wars. And like there's this whole Fantastic Four is coming in, and now there's like political stuff going on in Captain America and Thunderbolts. Um, I think it's just a bit unclear what's going on right now, and this is good to get some clarity from him. But I don't think anyone totally knows. There's been Avengers vs. X-Men's been thrown around. He threw out a comic book, which I haven't heard of, but it's called Avengers Forever. Apparently, it involves a Mephisto Council and multiversal Masters of Evil. Again, never read it. I might read it if this is what the Avengers 5 ends up being like, but haven't read it to this point. Not sure what it really is. And Mephisto is coming to the MCU soon, so that is definitely a possibility. But it's one of those things where I don't think anyone really knows what's going to be the main central storyline, besides from the fact that there'll be grounded parts with the characters like Captain America and everyone at Thunderbolts. And then there's probably going to be a more multiversal aspect with Loki, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, everything to do with Captain Marvel and any of the Marvels. So Avengers 5, getting a lot of rumors for it. We'll see what happens. Just scrolling down a little bit, talks a little bit more about Avengers 5, some theories and stuff like that. Um, Talks about, yeah, so he's talking about here the deadline article that I'm teasing, so I won't get into what he said, but one thing he did say is that apparently Loki and Sylvie are supposed to have a big role in the upcoming Avengers films. That's cool. It's good to know. It's good to know that one of the TV shows are actually affect the movies. Obviously, with all the TV shows we've gotten, and there's been very few connections, if at all. The one that I think of the most is Wanda and Multiverse of Madness, and it still wasn't connected too much. And then obviously Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to set up Brave New World, which comes out next year. But I'm not totally sure what Loki and Sylvie's roles will really be, besides from the fact that Loki is obviously like completely controlling the multiverse right now, and Sylvie kind of weird that she has a role. Felt like her character was, I feel like every non-Loki character was kind of concluded in their arc at the end of season two, but maybe I'm wrong. Obviously there's a lot of Sylvie fans, and Sophie DiMartino is a great actor, and I'm sure Tom Hiddleston was um promoting Marvel to bring her back, so campaigning for that. So we'll see about that. He talked a little bit about how there could be like World War Hulk, um, which everyone's asking for. He's been teasing that for a while, but he said he doesn't really have too many updates on that, especially like it doesn't sound like that's going to come out anytime soon, which makes sense. He talked little about Blade, which everyone's pretty down on Blade right now, obviously, because of all the delays and all the script changes and directors leaving, cast members, rumors flying everywhere. Some people saying that Mahershala Ali is going to leave the project, which isn't going to happen, but people have been saying it. And he, in his words, said, "Be patient with Blade and let them cook." So fair enough. I'm actually watching the Blade movies right now. If I watch Blade, I've watched the first two. If I watch the third one in the next week, I'll give a quick review of it next episode. But I think I will probably. So we'll have a review of that. But Wesley Snipes, who played the original Blade, is fantastic, and it'll take a lot to live up to that character. The movies are just like fun, okay, kind of wild, but he says let them cook. I also have faith in Mahershala Ali that this is kind of his baby project, and this was announced. I mean, wasn't it 2019, like 5 years ago? So I don't see him dropping out after all this time. Again, I think they should let him cook, and you know, we'll let that develop. And Blade is still scheduled to release next year. I kind of doubt it. I do think it'll come out before the next Avengers movies, but again, let them cook. I trust Mahershala Ali. He's a great actor. I know Marvel really wants to get this movie out, so hopefully, with all the rewrites and everything, they can find a script that is great, that pays homage to the previous saga, the previous trilogy from the '90s, and also is its own thing and connects to the future of the multiverse saga and hopefully Midnight Suns. So again, let them cook on that. He said he doesn't have any idea who Giancarlo Esposito is playing in the MCU. I don't think anyone does. There's been photos that have released online about kind of what character he could play, what he looks like. People have been theorizing. No one really knows, and I kind of hope it stays that way. I like reveals and stuff, and I love Giancarlo Esposito. He's literally one of my favorite actors out there. So the fact that he's in an MCU project and it's coming out literally next year in Brave New World. So but still, I kind of want it to be, let's just wait for the movie and they'll reveal it. And most likely, just from what the set photos we've seen, it'll probably be someone that I'm not as educated on. But I think it will definitely be a cool character. He's said to be returning for a series coming up, and there's been some cool theories with that. And that's would be something I have to talk about, more at length. But just for now, he said he doesn't really know. I don't think anyone really knows. It's all theory at this point, although there are some cool theories out there. But um, scrolling through here, he's kind of talking about big picture, about the political side, the multiverse side of the MCU. Just not something that it's kind of something we've already talked about. He did talk about and confirm that Captain Marvel, even after the Marvels underperforming at the box office and critically, is still going to be a huge part of this next phase of the multiverse saga, specifically dealing with the quantum bands and the ending of the movie. If you haven't seen it, it came out a year ago. I'm sorry, but Monica being trapped in another reality and with the X-Men universe with Kelsey Grammer Beast and Binary, who's a new character played by the actor who played Maria Rambeau. Her name is escaping, Lashana Lynch. So he said she's still going to be a big part of the multiverse saga, which is great news. I liked the Marvels and I like her as Carol Danvers. I think it's a great character that I never really liked in the comics, but has been really good so far in the MCU, even if her movies haven't been too good. So that's good news. He talked a lot about Daredevil Born Again and about some of the villains that could be in that show. And one of the rumored villains is Muse, who is kind of a sadistic spray painting villain who, again, if you don't know about Muse, read up on him, but he's a bit of a crazy villain. And he teased him a little bit here. Sounds like he's going to be cool. And he also said, which is really good news, that Daredevil Born Again is going to do something similar to the X-Men 97 show where it pays homage to the previous show, but it's still its own thing with MCU aspects, but it is going to be very similar to the previous show, and it sounds like it's coming out really well. And it sounds like ever since these reshoots and these rewrites that the movie is coming out how Marvel wanted it from the first place and how the fans wanted it from the first place. So I'm really excited. It should be great. I think everyone's excited for this, and this is great news to hear. He talked a little bit about again, there's more about Daredevil Born Again. You guys can follow along with me as I'm going through this, but talked about Doctor Strange. Obviously, Doctor Strange important to the multiverse saga. Nothing new there. Talked about Fantastic Four. He has no updates on that. He said that Ghost Rider's coming soon. That's good news. Probably whenever Mephisto comes, it sounds like. Said he doesn't know anything about a Hawkeye season 2, which had been rumored. I think that'd be silly. We already have Kate Bishop. She's great. She's going to be in Young Avengers. Clint's kind of, I think, run his time, but we'll see if that happens or not. Again, talked more about World War Hulk, said it may be set up a little bit in Captain America Brave New World. And that is basically the end of this article. So I'm going to skim through a little bit the next one because I've talked for a while, especially about that Secret Wars thing, and I still have to get into to the deadline article as well. But um, oh, I was at the bottom of this article. Give me a second. This is the second article, part two, which came out yesterday for me on June 8th. And again, a lot of talk about Kang and the multiverse saga in Avengers 5. He said apparently they want to focus on other, this is again quoting him, they want to focus on other multiversal villains before dealing with Kang again. Um, that's interesting for a couple reasons, mainly because dealing with Kang again. Does that mean Kang is going to come back but not in the saga, or he'll be in Secret Wars but not Avengers 5? Obviously with a new actor. I don't really know what that means. It's interesting. And other multiversal villains, I'm wondering who that's going to be. Feel free to let me know who you think that's going to be. There's been some theories out there. He also kind of noted that he doesn't know anything about who's going to play new Kang variants or whatever. And He talked a little bit about Doom in this saga, and this is something that I was probably most looking forward to talk about because Doom is one of my favorite comic book villains, and Secret Wars is, again, like I said, my favorite comic. And I was worried that they were going to squander Doom and not be able to set him up in time and then just get rid of him, which it sounds like they're not going to do this. So the way he said it is that they're treating Doom similar to how they've handled Loki in the Infinity Saga, which I think is a really interesting thing or interesting way of putting it because when he first said that, when he first said that, I was kind of confused. I wasn't sure what that totally meant, and I was worried that that meant he's going to turn into a hero. Like he's going to be like Loki, where he eventually turns into a hero. But that happened after the Infinity Saga, so I don't think that's the case. I think what he means here is that he's going to be introduced in the Multiverse Saga and he's going to have a role in the Avengers movies, but also he'll be able to come back after this into the next saga and still be dueling it out with the Fantastic Four, maybe be the more main element of that saga. And I think it sounds like he's going to kind of be in the background of this saga, and then he'll show up in Avengers 5 maybe, and then a little bit more in Secret Wars in both parts. And he's still going to be the main villain of those stories, but he'll still have room to grow and get more depth to his character when we get into the next saga. That's what happens in the Secret Wars comics. I mean, no, this isn't like really a spoiler, but Doom, the way Secret Wars ends leaves opportunities for him to be in the next set of comics that comes after Secret Wars. So that's something that I kind of was hoping and expected. I think that's great. So I think that's a great. I mean, Loki's one of the best characters in the MCU, and Loki's never even been a character I've been that much of a fan of in the comics. So if they're handling him in any way similar to that, I'm sure it'll end up well. And still don't know an actor for Doom. Esposito is one of the guys they threw out there, but it sounds like that's not going to happen. So we're not sure yet about what's going to happen with Doom and what actor's going to play him and when he's going to show up first. But it sounds like it's going to come soon. So that's really exciting, and I hope that they do him justice, especially in Secret Wars, because they cannot fumble Secret Wars. They cannot do it. I will be very, very frustrated. So he talked a little bit about the Marvel animated stuff. Just saying, you know, Marvel Animation's always got new ideas. What if season three? Not sure about it. Beyond the Spider Verse when it's ready. Um, Talked about Midnight Suns, which is really exciting. I've been thinking about Midnight Suns a lot recently because I've been watching Blade. There's been rumors about Blade. There's been a lot of Ghost Rider rumors. There's been Wong rumors, Moon Knight rumors. So this is what he said about what the potential roster of the Midnight Suns is going to be. This movie has not been announced yet, but it's going to happen, and probably before Avengers 5, or maybe between Avengers 5 and Secret Wars, but it's going to happen. The characters he mentioned were Wong, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, who again hasn't appeared yet, Blade, Werewolf by Night, and Man Thing. And then those were the main ones that he's heard, but he also mentioned Black Knight, Scarlet, who is in Eternals, Scarlet Scarab, who was the girl in Moon Knight, who was Moon Knight's former wife, and Elsa Bloodstone, who was also in Werewolf by Night, Doctor Strange, and Agatha. And he said that kind of goes in order of most likely to least likely. So interesting that Doctor Strange is toward the end of that list. He's one of the main characters in the Midnight Suns in the comics. That's kind of, I'm not sure about that. I hope that's not the case, but that roster he said of Wong, Moon Knight, Ghost Rider, Blade, Werewolf by Night, and Man Thing, that would be awesome. That's a great roster. I would kind of be surprised if that's the roster, just the fact that I thought for sure Black Knight was going to be in it. I thought for sure that Doctor Strange was going to be in it, at least those two specifically. Maybe the plans have changed with Black Knight with how Eternals didn't do well, and it's been so long since we have any tease related to Eternals and Blade. We don't know when it's coming out. It was rumored that Black Knight was going to have a role in Blade, so that is something that might have changed with all these rewrites. So maybe Black Knight is kind of on the back burner. I hope that's not the case because it's a great actor playing him, but we'll see on that front. I hope he's part of the roster, but just talking about the Midnight Suns is awesome. I hope that comes out soon, or I hope we get an announcement about that soon. Maybe one of the cons this year. I would be surprised if we didn't, but I guess we kind of have to wait to see what happens with Ghost Rider because we haven't even got an announcement of him yet. Talked a little bit about directorial choices for Midnight Suns, and he's just not sure, but he's throwing names out there. A couple of stuff about Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch movie is apparently in development, but very early conceptual stage. I'd be shocked personally if that comes out before any of. I think that's going to come in the next phase. I don't know if they have time for a Scarlet Witch solo movie before Avengers 5 or Secret Wars, but we'll see. But he said it's just in the works. Young Avengers in the works as well, he said. Um, Bit of spoiler stuff about Deadpool and Wolverine, so I'm not going to get into that. You can read that for yourself. You know what I'm talking about if you read the article. Talked a little about Spider-Man 4. This is probably going to be the last thing that we need to talk about. with Spider-Man 4, as we know, Sony is trying to fast track this. They've been looking at directors. There's rumors about what people could appear. It could have a connection to Daredevil. It could have multiversal aspects. It could have street level aspects. No one really knows. Apparently, Sony and Marvel are fighting back and forth on that. So he kind of talked a little bit, and again, some of this is a bit spoilery, so I'm not gonna go too much into it. But he did say that he's not sure about Black Cat appearing in this. There's been rumors that Sydney Sweeney playing back Black Cat. There's been rumors about Black Cat kind of being the new love interest now that he doesn't know about MJ, even though Zendaya is probably gonna be in this movie. I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure why they would do that, but anyway. Again, Black Cat, he's not sure about. He said that there's gonna be some multiversal characters, some villains that we might have seen before, but maybe villains that we haven't seen before. And it was interesting. He did say about that there may be, after what happened in No Way Home with the villains Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina coming into the universe and fighting Spider-Man, and the whole world watched that battle. He said that might have inspired a lot of people in the current MCU. I'm not sure if that means like a new Doc Ock, new Green Goblin, or it means like Scorpion, who we've seen before, Vulture. Who knows if he's even in the MCU with what Sony's mess is going on right now? But Vulture's on the list too. Trying to think of what other people he mentioned, but in general, it sounds like Sony's throwing out a lot of ideas right now. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, but I'm excited for Spider-Man 4. If it gets fast tracked, apparently it might release next year. Um, Fair enough, Sony, if they're able to create a good story by then, but that kind of worries me. And he also said Daredevil Born Again is going to significantly affect what's happening in Spider-Man 4, especially with Kingpin's mayoral campaign. That was a tongue twister. Especially with that, that's going to connect totally to Daredevil or totally to Spider-Man 4. And a lot of stuff being thrown out right now. Sony probably doesn't know what they're doing, so I don't know how we're going to know. So anyway, talked a little about the Thunderbolts. Again, this is kind of spoilery stuff, so I'm not really going to get into this. Read the article if you want to see about Thunderbolts. I'm still a bit skeptical about it, but we'll see what happens. He said he doesn't really know about the X-Men movie, even though it's been got a screenwriter and it's been kind of announced. They said they don't know about it yet. He said it's probably going to come after Secret Wars, though. But he said there's going to be X-Men that are going to appear in Secret Wars, but not any new X-Men movie until after Secret Wars, most likely. A little bit more about the Young Avengers, but miscellaneous stuff there. And then he kind of ended with some miscellaneous stuff, a lot of stuff that he doesn't have any word on. So yeah, that's it for those two articles. A lot of news there. I talked for a long time about that, and I think that it's interesting that we're at a point in Marvel right now where people are really craving this news. There's been a lot of news that come out this month and last month. I'm not sure why, but I think it's really because first off, a lot of Marvel movies are filming or in development right now, are coming out soon, especially with how there's only one movie coming out this year. There's a lot of development and filming going on right now, besides from, all this build up and hype that's been for Deadpool and Wolverine, which is coming out next month, towards the end of next month. So I think it's been really interesting the amount of rumors we've gotten. I'm glad. I love rumors. I love talking about them, but all of that has to be taken with a grain of salt because a lot of it is just rumors. A lot of it is Marvel throwing out ideas that might not happen. We learned that enough with how many rewrites of Blade and Fantastic Four there's been, which hopefully are both releasing next year. So, but at least it sounds from my perspective that Marvel is starting to get some sort of connection and feeling a lot more like we're actually leading to an Avengers team or Avengers movies and stuff like that. It feels like Captain America Brave New World will be a movie that will have a lot of connections to Thunderbolts and any sort of movies that are coming out before the Avengers movies, and then Avengers 5, Secret Wars, and anything that's coming out in the next phase past the multiverse saga, which I think is probably going to be like a mutant saga, but we'll see about that. So, yeah, just to end this, though, I don't have too much time because I've gone a little bit too long, but like I said, Deadline released an article about Avengers 5. I talked about it a little bit, and some of the stuff that Alex talked about relays to the reporting from Deadline, who I guess in theory is more reliable than Secret War. Or what am I saying? In theory, Deadline is more reliable than Alex, but this is also them giving more overall plot points and stuff. So they gave like a list of details for Avengers 5, and the main kind of overall takeaway from this article was that Shawn Levy, who is about to direct, or not about to direct, has directed Deadpool and Wolverine for this summer, and that's what he's going to be mostly known for. But he's directed a lot of Ryan Reynolds movies, Free Guy, Adam Project, the two that I've seen that he's directed, not too well critically received, and I didn't totally like them too much. But just with everything I've seen from Deadpool and Wolverine, it sounds like it's going to be great. And if it is everything we've hoped for, 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10 movie and a great end to the Deadpool trilogy and a great way of bringing back Wolverine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think he is a great choice to direct Avengers 5, and I think this would be great. I'm going to hold off on it a little bit until I see Deadpool and Wolverine. I think there's a very slim chance that Deadpool and Wolverine isn't at least like a 4-star fun movie that everyone likes, but obviously there is a chance that it is worse than that, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'll wait to fully talk about this at length until I see Deadpool and Wolverine or it's confirmed that Shawn Levy's directing this. But I think it's exciting news because I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be good. And I think it's good that they're attaching a director to this project because apparently it's supposed to start filming at the end of this year and releasing end of next year. So even though we don't even know what the title is yet or what the plot is. So I think that attaching a director to it who likes the scripts they've been doing or the ideas they've been putting out there, definitely good news. And we'll just have to see how this develops as we get further into the year or this summer when more of the conventions come out. So a couple other details they mentioned. I'll just rattle through these and give my thoughts. They said that Avengers 5 may feature over 60 MCU characters. I think that'd be a mistake. I guess I'd have to see how that like went through and what characters they're talking about, but I think the 60 character movie should be Secret Wars. I don't know why Avengers 5 would have 60 characters, but certainly interesting thing that they're saying that, or at least Marvel is thinking about that. Maybe they just put that out there so they could get the fans' thoughts in it and see if people react on social media. I think it's been split like I am, just like, okay, that'd be cool. Let me see how it works, but kind of skeptical. And they said that related to that, it's going to be more of an ensemble of characters instead of, just like a 6 to 10 man team or just kind of the characters that have been the main focus of this saga. It's going to be more like a lot of characters. I think if they can do it with a good story, it'll be great because Endgame has so many characters, Infinity War has so many characters, and they're great. But I don't really see how this is going to work without the real buildup that those two movies had. So kind of worrying me, but again, we'll have to see how that develops. They mentioned a couple characters that could appear, not really any surprises here. Thor, Loki, Hulk, Doctor Strange, Nebula, and Shang-Chi. Nebula's a bit like, I'm not sure, like, what does she have to do with everything that's going on right now? But obviously, Karen Gillan is great as her, so not surprised if she will return. They said those are some of the potential characters and actors that could return. Production apparently begins in 2025. Maybe releasing 2025. We'll see. They said they don't know about the main villain, if it's going to be Kang or not. The one thing we know is it's not going to be Jonathan Majors Kang, but we don't know if it's going to be Kang or not. And again, Shawn Levy's the top choice, but they're going to quote them, they're going to meet with other directors while they wait for him to make a decision. So sure, he's really busy right now doing with press for Deadpool and finishing the final touches on that movie. And there's going to be a huge fallout of that movie for him. So we'll just wait and see on that. I think he'd be a good choice, but yeah, a lot of interesting updates on Avengers 5, but something that a lot of stuff's being thrown out right now. I'm not sure Marvel knows what they're going to do, but seems like we're kind of getting closer and closer to an actual story and dealing with the fallout of the Jonathan Major situation, but we'll just have to wait and see. So I guess I was going to talk about Venom 3 before we end this. Here's my like 1 minute thoughts on the Venom 3 trailer. I'm kind of surprised there's been a positive reception on Twitter for it, just from what I've seen so far. And a lot of the people that I respect and like on Twitter, they've apparently liked the trailer. To me, it just seems like it seems the same as the first two Venom movies for me. Tom Hardy's great as the character. They're fun movies. They probably should have been longer in length, and they don't really do total respect to the character, but they're fun and they're a 3 out of 5 star. They're the first two Venom movies are a clear 3 out of 5 star for me. I enjoyed them. There's fun scenes, but it's a convoluted mess that doesn't really have anything of consistency or anything really going on. It feels like nothing's really going on. It's like, oh, this happens, this happens, this happens. The movie's over. Oh, what did I just watch? Like this movie from the trailer looks like it's gonna be the exact same thing. I guess the scale seems a little bit higher. And it seems like it might be rated R. That's not confirmed, but just from some of the shots in the trailer, it might be rated R, which makes me think like, why, if you're gonna make this movie rated R, why wasn't the Carnage movie rated R? That just like really kind of pisses me off because Carnage could have been so much better than he was in that movie. But I think that, like I said, and with all like the continuity stuff, like we saw them trapping the symbiote, which makes no sense. There's actors from the MCU in it. What else? There's the guy who played the Lizard in the Amazing Spider-Man. who knows if he's reprising his role? Like, why would they even get him in the movie if he's not reprising his role? So what's going on there? I kind of wish that I had this podcast like last week because I would have just recorded like a 10-minute trailer reaction to it. But um, my overall thoughts is right. I think it's just going to be another mediocre Venom movie. And apparently it's the last dance. It's going to be another mediocre Venom movie that needs Spider-Man in it but won't have him. I'm not. I'm gonna watch it opening night, and I'm gonna give it a full fair shot, and we'll see what the promo leading up to this is, and if there's any more rumors. I'm not gonna really get into any of the plot leaks we've gotten. You can find that online if you want to. I don't want to spoil it for people who don't really want to know that kind of stuff, but it seems like the plot leaks do line up with the trailer that we got. So I just think it's going to be another mediocre Venom installment, which might be a little larger scale than the previous two, but still will be a mess and won't the writing won't do Tom Hardy and the rest of the cast any favors because the cast is great and he's great as the character. And it sucks that he hasn't really been able to get a good script or a good movie so far. So I really hope this one's good, but I'm not very confident. And I think Sony has no clue what they're doing. I think all these continuity issues, they're just throwing stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks and hoping people like one of their movies they release after how bad Madam Web was, how bad Morbius was, and how bad Craven might be later this year. We'll see about Craven. Who even knows about Craven? That's a discussion for another day. But yeah, Venom 3, I'm not too excited, but I'm gonna watch it opening day. We'll see. Like watching Tom Hardy's Venom, but Venom's one of my favorite villains, and it's kind of disappointing. He's definitely my favorite Spider-Man villain, and it's kind of disappointing that he's been fumbled so far in live action. Whatever your opinion is on Spider-Man 3, I don't like that character, but is what it is. So just to wrap up here, again, thank you everyone for listening so far. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. If you could, wherever you're listening to this, if you're watching on YouTube, if you could give it a like, comment your thoughts, share it to anyone, who you think might be interested in this, or rate it on Spotify, which is where it is right now if you're listening on audio. Either way, I appreciate it. All the links to all the Rogue Guy Media stuff, like I said, are in the description. The links to the Alex Perez Q&As and my letterboxed, like I was talking about earlier, and the Deadline article as well. And I guess I'll leave a link to the Venom trailer, maybe. I don't know. I guess Sony needs the credit for that. But yeah, all the stuff you need is in the description. Thank you so much for listening to this first episode if you made it this far. And I really appreciate everybody sticking with me throughout this transition for the brand. I think it's going to be great. I had a great time filming this podcast, and if you're skipping through this podcast or you're learning from this podcast, because I'm going to upload some clips onto TikTok hopefully this week. So if you're coming from there, welcome. Hope you enjoyed the full episode and share it with everybody you think would be interested in this. I hope that I get some guests on here soon. If anyone's interested in talking about movies, Marvel, DC, Star Wars, anything, I'm game. Hop on with me for a little bit. Doesn't have to be 15 minutes, can be 20, 30 minutes. Hop on with me and, we can get episodes going. So again, episodes every Monday. I keep getting them mixed up. Episodes every Monday. So this episode released on Monday. I'm recording this the day before, but this will be out on Monday morning, and there will be another episode next week. If there's any immediate thoughts that I need, like some breaking MCU news comes out or a trailer comes out, which I don't foresee happening, I might record like an emergency episode if I have time, just like a 10-15 minute quick thing. These are my thoughts on this. That might be coming in the future, maybe not, maybe will. Just kind of depends on what comes out in the next week. But next week's show should be fun because we have The Boys season 3 coming out this week. I'm probably going to watch Gen V this week because I haven't seen it, and The Boys coming out in like 3 days. So I'm going to try to finish it before then. And Inside Out 2 comes out on Friday. Excited for that. So probably be a review for that next week. So next week will probably be more of a review heavy episode compared to a theories and news episode. But again, thank you for watching. I'm going to wrap this up. Most of the episodes will be like 40 to 45 minutes. So if I went a little long in this one, I apologize, but there'll be chapters of the video. You can skip around to what do you want to listen to. And yeah, I've been Alex Schlerf. This is the Rogue Guy Entertainment Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next Monday for episode 2.